This is The Roadmap with Lee Heisman.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Roadmap, exclusively here on ASBN.com. I'm Lee Heisman, and every week we bring you some of the brightest entrepreneurs, CEOs, and business owners who are climbing the ladder, scaling their businesses, and thinking one day how to exit stage left. Today, I have an unbelievable group of guests here. Two brothers, Alvin and Calvin Waters. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Lee.
Goodness, guys, I want to tell the story, and your story is going to be long, but I have to tell the story to our audience of how we met. And I don't reside in Buckhead, but I have offices in Buckhead, and I have to look at our audience and share with you. I happen to be sitting at the Whole Foods. I see these two gentlemen come in. You were wearing similar outfits, and I think one of you was sitting out there, and I noticed your shoes matched your jacket perfectly. That was on a Wednesday afternoon. I said, hey, those are great looking shoes. And we talked for a few minutes. We talked about football. I'm from Philly. You were talking about the Falcons a little bit. And that was the end of it. We spent 7 minutes together. And I happened to be in Buckhead for a few days. And I was in the back corner of the Lenox Mall parking lot charging my wife's electric car. And literally I look in the corner and I see two guys looking over in the darkness, right? It was darkness. You guys look across the parking lot and you yell, Philly? Philly guy? And I'm like, wait, what's going on? How do you know this? And then we reconnected, and suddenly we know a ton of the same people. You know, previous guests on the show, Stone Stafford, of course, and just the similar industries. But you guys are amazing. I'm so glad that we met, and I'm so excited for our future together. But let's talk a little bit, before we get into Randy's Donuts, let's talk a little about your history here, because you guys formed a band called AC Black back in the day. You've been in the fashion business. Talk about your history.
Well, we started out two country boys in Macon, Georgia, of all places. And Alvin and I are self-taught musicians. We taught ourselves. I taught myself how to play guitar. He taught himself how to play bass. We were trumpet and trombone players before that, and we wanted to have a rhythm section, but we couldn't find nobody to play guitar and bass. So we self-taught ourselves. Out of being self-taught, even a little bit back before that, when we got a bass and a guitar, we taught ourselves how to play, but we only know how to play one song that we made up. But we went to the studio and we recorded that one song, and then we started sending demos out. And we get a call one night from a guy named Larry Blackman, who used to be with a funk band called Cameo. And he had a label called Atlanta Artists, yeah. And so he said, hey, I want to sign you guys. And we was like, yeah, okay. So we got signed, and then he called us the next week. He said, I want you guys to open up for the SOS band in Columbus, Georgia next week. And he and I only knew how to play two songs. And that was songs that we've
never been on stage before.
Yeah, never been on stage, playing and stuff. So we rehearsed those two songs and just made them extra long, because we had like 15 minutes stage time. And then we opened up for that. And then the rest of it, Calvin and I just kept going and going and going and going, to where we got signed to Motown. And when we got signed to Motown, we started touring overseas. I don't know how far you want me to get into.
No, I love it. This is spectacular. But it does lead to the entrepreneurial mindset that you have of fake it till you make it, because you had two songs and you got signed to your first label.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep going.
So when we did Motown, we were the record wasn't pushed over here like it should have been, but overseas there was a love for the record. So we would go over to Japan and we would tour. And so every time, Calvin and I, back then, we didn't know what producing and arranging and writing was, because we were doing everything, even from the actual album. So every time we go to Japan, we were too busy being horn dogs or musicians, but Japanese artists would come to our shows and try to talk to us about producing records.
Well, let me get back to when we got signed to Motown. They signed us for one song. And so when we went in, they flew us from Macon, Atlanta, to Reno, Nevada, big mansion, studio and everything. So as soon as we get off the plane, we had rehearsed the group that we had put together. We had rehearsed them. So as soon as we get off the plane, we go directly in the studio and cut a whole album, right? Every song back, because we had rehearsed back. So at the time, one of the executives from Motown, he flew in the next morning, and he asked the engineer, he said, have they started yet? And the guy named Don Evans, the engineer,
Our hero.
yeah, our hero, he pushed his chair back from the board. He said, have they started yet? They cut a whole album.
Wow.
He said, what do you mean they cut a whole album? He said, they came in and they cut a whole album overnight. He said, let me hear it. He said, that's impossible. Nobody comes in the studio and just cut a whole album. Usually it take about 2 or 3 days to cut one song. So when Bill listened to the whole album, he gets on the phone, because we actually got signed for one song.
But you did the whole album.
We did the whole album, recorded the whole album, all original music. And as soon as he listened to it, he got on the phone, he picked the phone up on the desk of the console. He called, at the time, Gerald Busby was the executive over there. And he said, forget giving them one song, send them over an album deal right now.
And is this for AC Black?
Yeah, that's for AC Black. Yeah. And from there, the rest, we traveled the world, produced, we sold more records overseas than we did here. And we from Korea, Japan, Europe, all of England, that's what we were doing most of our tours.
But pause this and take one quick step back. First, we could talk for hours.
Yes,
right? This show could be 3 hours. We have another studio for that. Yeah, so this is more of a high level. But at what point in your lives did you guys determine, hey, we want to work together before we get to the next phase? But take a step back, because you're brothers, right? Twins. And when do you determine we want to be together continually in our career?
In the womb. We didn't have a choice. I mean, we worked together to get out of there. I mean, like, and that was just an ongoing thing. It's just like, I don't know, everybody asks about a twin situation, but it just comes as a package deal, because we tell people, in the sense of us doing business with people, we don't know how to be selfish because we've always had to share. So we don't know the selfishness of even dealing with people on the street, which we should, but I mean, it was one of those things that it was a given. I mean, like, and then I guess it works, and it continued to work. And
so you didn't know any other way?
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
we didn't know how to do stuff separately.
So going from music, which we could spend an hour on, let's cut into, hey, you know what? We're bored with this. We traveled the world. We're selling tremendously overseas. Let's not double down on that. Let's not go into the fashion industry with Wild Boys. Why not just go to something else because we're bored? Is that what happened?
No, actually, we started in the fashion industry. We live in Buckhead, and I think he was somewhere else. And so I decided, I was bored. I decided to walk shops in Buckhead, and I see this guy had a red bottom hat, and I said, wow, that's a great hat. And my nephew at the time, he said, well, that's the guy over there. He was actually selling them out of the trunk of his Altima. And I said, wow, you got a nice product. I said, have you ever thought about being in Neiman Marcus? He said, country boy, he said, shoot, I can't get him Neiman Marcus. I said, you can, but we can. So when I called him, then we talked for like 2 weeks on the phone with the guy, and we said, look, send him over the contract, where we become equity partners in it. I said, we don't do nothing, we'll tear it up in your face.
Fair.
And when he did that, he signed it, and I was over at Alvin house, and Alvin had his feet on the desk. He said, give him 2 hours. And then we said, okay. So 2 hours in, we called him back and then said, okay, you're in all the Neiman Marcus across the country, because that's the kind of connection that we already had with Neiman Marcus.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So that was the next business, Wild Boys.
Yes.
Wild Boys is the same thing. We followed on the heels of that, because now we was in the fashion game, because we had one of the top selling single item brands in Neiman's period in Bergdorf. So with that, we said, let's just follow up with Wild Boys. So Calvin and I, we always had, during the pandemic, it was actually a fluke, because we stay in the same building. We don't live together, but we stay in the same building. So I borrowed a guitar from him, and I said, yeah, I'm coming downstairs and I'm bringing your guitar back. But I didn't have a mask on, because back then masks were scarce. People were selling masks for like $1,000.
Sure, sure.
So I had a Louis Vuitton scarf on my. So I was walking out in the hallway. He said, yeah, that'll make a great picture. I just had the guitar in my hand. So he snapped the picture. We put it up.
we started getting calls and saying, "Hey, what's up with this?" I'm bored. I had a T-shirt. A black T-shirt. I just took bleach and wrote Wild Boys on here, just being.
He had missed a T. He had spilled some bleach on the black shirt, so he couldn't take it back. So he just took a toothbrush and said,
I had paid $32 for that black T-shirt, so
Yeah.
it's just like I just wrote Wild Boys on there, and then
washed it and it bleached out.
yeah,
Wild Boys with an X at the end. Is
yeah,
that
exactly, exactly. So
So
I'm walking down the hallway. He said to make a cool picture. He snapped a picture. He posted it up on social media. We started getting calls from the retailers that we were dealing with. Said, "What's up with the Wild Boys brand?" And we're like,
so one messed T-shirt.
It's from one messed up T-shirt.
Yes.
So then we started creating like, distressed boots, hand design, flannels and everything else. And like I say, we can talk for hours.
Hours about that as
Yeah.
well. We're going to have to come back on that one as well, guys. So we have the music industry where you've collaborated with people like Usher, Chris Brown, Mary J. Blige. So
Yeah.
check that box. We now get into the fashion industry, top selling brands in Neiman Marcus. Let's check that box. Hey, why not talk about, let's find another industry, the food industry. Let's talk about this, how we met and what you're wearing today.
Wow. Alvin and I, our birthday is June 26th, and every year, well, we did so much, we used to live in LA, so every year we still go back, stay for our birthday. So
We touch down, do our ritual from going back and forth from LA for business. So we get a rental, stop by Randy's Donuts, take La Seneca in the Beverly Hills. He likes to stay at the Beverly Hills, Hilton. I like the London. So we're driving after we pick the donuts
And for
up.
people on the East Coast, but you're now
Okay.
getting it here, Randy's Donuts not only was popularized from the Marvel movie where
Exactly.
Iron Man sat in that big donut, but that's a landmark on the West Coast,
And,
correct?
and it's been a staple. I mean, it was started in 1952, but it's in all the movies, and it's the quintessential to any sign in the sense of for the West Coast in LA and Hollywood. So he said, "Hey, I want to bring a franchise to Atlanta." And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." So he calls. He said he looks up the number and calls the number, and Mark, the owner, is walking by and he answers the phone. And he said, "Hey, we want to bring a franchise to Atlanta." He said, "I have 15 minutes if you guys want to talk." And so we end up talking for hours.
that 15 minutes turned to 2 or 3 hours, and then going back and forth over a couple of weeks. Mark called us. He said, "What do y'all want to do? Because I want to give y'all the franchise rights for 10 locations in Atlanta."
And this was how long ago?
This was back in the the early part of 2024.
24, okay.
It was like 23 going into 24. So, with that, it's just like for us, we had to learn the game. We had to switch our game up because it was more so about the brand. We loved the product because, we never ate donuts until we went to LA. So it's just the fact of now we're dealing with a brand, the first one on the East Coast. So we had to take all that into consideration. Now, not only everybody knows about, if they don't, we have to familiarize them in the sense of with the big donut, but they hadn't had the taste of the donut. So, you have to do your boots on the ground. I know that's a song now, but you have to do your guerrilla marketing. And now it not only just being visual, people have to actually taste it, feel a donut, touch a donut, and taste a donut. And
It's not exactly just a donut. It's the iconic institution that everybody knows. This is one of the most, because we did some seminars and the guy came up and he said, "Randy's Donuts." He said, "You know what you have?" I said, "Yeah, we have Randy's Donuts from LA." He said, "No, you have a
designer donut.
a designer brand that everybody know about, but they haven't had the luxury of tasting it."
Oh, I love that.
So we said, okay, so now we knew we was onto something.
It almost kind of equates, in our limited time together, it feels like that's you guys, a designer brand that not everybody's had a chance to experience yet, or taste or experience.
Yeah.
Every time that I'm with you guys, I feel like I'm with a designer brand, and every experience I have is better and better. So it does fit you guys.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the nicest thing anybody.
No, it's true. It's true. Every time we're together, it gets better and better.
Yeah.
So take a step back. He turns to you, and let's not fast track this. This is where we want to lean into. Is he turns to you and says, "I want you to have 10 franchises in Atlanta. No one's on the East Coast. I want you to be my first on the East Coast, and I want to give you 10 in Atlanta." So you guys, as most successful entrepreneurs, and I talk to our audience all the time, you guys just take for granted all the hard work to just make it happen. So take a moment and say, now, how do you open up the first one? What are the locations? How do you start working through all this?
Well, you look at it and you try to scale it because we know it's just even around Atlanta, it's a populated city and everybody can open up everything, but it's the fact that how you do it. So from us coming from being able to market and brand it, where once we hit, it has to stay and it has to stay. Because I think that we could have, even from that time, even up to now, we could have just opened up something and just expect for everybody to run to it. You can't, because Atlanta is a funny city. You can market and advertise in every billboard that just anything. But people have to word of mouth because Atlanta is really this big, and it's about relationships and it's about people talking and talking. People don't run too fast just because they see a billboard. It's just like, they'll see something on a billboard that really doesn't make them go and buy it or anything. They have to actually talk to somebody that had the experience of the product, not only with the donut, but just anything.
Yeah, the word of mouth is so important,
Yeah.
recommendation. So how did you open the first one up?
The very first one, what we did was we facilitated a commissary, 4,000 square foot commissary, and we started making donuts to give out for free. We gave out thousands of donuts because we know we was always taught one happy person equals 10 happy people.
Yeah.
One happy person equals 10 happy people, because that one happy person is going to tell 10 of his friends, and then that's going to multiply whatever. And then now with the day of social media, we said, okay, if you show us that you're happy with the donut, and we would take pictures of somebody because their first bite into into a donut, and then we want to catch, not knowing, there were so many people expressions that we had missing. We said everybody got the same expression when they bit the donut. So then we start, doing that and said, okay, just post it, how good it is or whatever. And then on top of that, our location key points were one of the most vital things, because we had an opportunity to open up these little spots like up in the cut, like off the beaten path. But Alvin and I wanted to make sure we try to get the busiest intersections.
So where are you located right now?
Right now, where you was doing your car at.
Sure, the Lenox Mall area.
Yes, but that really wasn't our first location. Our first location, we wanted to do the Las Vegas style with the big donut.
Yep.
But with permits and the city doing a great job. I didn't mean that, but they are doing a great job. But it takes some time.
So you are planning on putting a big donut in Buckhead?
Absolutely, putting
Get
10
outta
big
here. So how do you make that happen?
Permits, they won't allow us to do the 30-foot donut. And we're going back
So
and
the
forth with
weather
the city,
here in Georgia.
even us doing a build out, even on the first location here in Atlanta, people from Atlanta on Piedmont. So we've been going back and forth, even just getting stuff out. But this is the way the city operates and it's run.
Will you get a 10-foot donut, a 20-foot?
Every time we trying to negotiate that. So in the process of that, it's still waiting on permits just to even
It would have to be about a 15 to 20 foot donut.
Yeah.
But during the meantime, on us opening up the big Las Vegas lights, big donut and all that, we decided to, our attorneys and our realtor say, look at this location right there right in front of the mall on Lenox. And me and him saying, and then after we'll listen, and then we'll sit down and we'll work it out. And we say, yeah, this would be a great location because we're right in front of Lenox Square Mall.
Yep.
That's the first building that you see as soon as you pull in. It's a freestanding building. And we had all the bushes, and they had like 6 foot tall trees around it. We had all that cleaned up, and we put a lot of signage on the building so you can
we couldn't do a donut because the city wouldn't allow it.
Makes sense.
They wouldn't.
But did you find that to be your best location so far?
Right now, I mean, we're going to do it. We're coming up. We're doing a soft opening. We're doing a grand opening. But we actually did that because based on the community and the facility around, because you have condos, apartments, hotels, office buildings, and everything else. So we strategically looked at it in the sense, okay, let's get this, hit this market right here.
And also, too, I hate to cut you off, it's 35 million people visit Leonard Square Mall every day. They have
15,000 employees.
15,000
I
employees.
mean, it's a prime location where
Yeah.
I saw you guys in the facility.
Absolutely.
It's prime.
And it was so funny and ironic, I'm gonna say it, it was a little different for two ethnic guys, or I'm saying two black guys.
Sure.
To have a freestanding building right in front of the busiest mall in the state.
Yeah.
I mean, it's blessing. I mean, like, but I thank goodness that our history and our credibility, bypass any type of thing, because the more successful we are, which the mall is successful anyway. But we know the Simon Group want to attach or be affiliated with something that is success, going to be a success. So we're at a good place and a good space right now, even from just opening that one, leading up to the other 9 stores, that we're in a good place because, like our commissary, out by the airport, we're in the airport, and we got other vendors and other places. I can't name the places right now because we're getting ready to sign a deal with them.
Sure.
But they want us in these super venues and coming up for FIFA and everything else.
Oh my gosh, the World Cup. Just imagine the capabilities of this.
And
Because we talked about the professional sports teams here in Atlanta,
Yeah.
of course, the airport you mentioned as well. These are future spots for you. Because talk about expansion. What happens after you hit the first stage of this? What's your second and third phase?
I don't know, to get it on autopilot. Sometimes we try to go ahead, but sometimes we said, okay, let's pull it back and let's get to here, because
You talking about after the 10 stores in Atlanta?
Yeah.
Ultimate goal is us moving up and down the East Coast.
So you want to go beyond the Atlanta market.
yeah.
Yes.
We want to help increase the notoriety of the brand, because it's a great brand and it's an iconic one. And, it is what it is. I mean, it's just great all aboard. I mean, it's something that we want, even for the franchise, even from us, it's something that neither one of us would attach ourselves to if there was any type of downside to it.
Will you only choose a market or area that allows you to build in the future after you get this set that allows you to build a large donut?
Yeah, I mean, because it's a
have to.
staple.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a staple. I mean, and that's what brought to the attention.
And the most beautiful thing about it is the tourist board for the city of Atlanta said as soon as we put their first big donut up, they're going to make it inside of everything that they send out, that it is one of the tourist attractions coming to Atlanta.
Because this is the second
branded
LA,
door.
everybody
it is the
shoots
top
here.
one. It makes complete sense. So how long? Here's some concerns, and I know our time is flying by, guys, as we're having fun. But when does Alvin and Calvin get bored of this, or is this the final hurrah for you?
We always, things come by, I guess we kind of like, we'll see something, just like we saw the Hats, just like we saw Wild Boys, just like we taught ourselves how to play, instruments. It's something that will catch our attention, and then me and him will go back and forth. Sometimes he said, I don't want to mess with it. And then, once we see something, then it just catches our eye, and we'll just like
I
latch
don't know,
on.
we might do like lipsticks for chickens or something. I don't know. I mean, like whenever we think of something, we're like, yeah, let's try it. We never say, like sometimes I try to give a pro and con about it, but it's just the mere fact that if it came, it said, let's just try it anyway to see how creative we can be in the sense of making it successful. Because even when we got in the fashion game, real talk, we knew nothing about it, but we had relationships and stuff like that. So, it was funny because when we first did our first show here in Atlanta, we sat down with the people here and they said, well, you guys are not going to be able to do that well. And, you might have probably like 50 or 75 people, show up, and these might be your closest friends. We actually made that company's quota for that men's department.
In 3 hours, we did their quota, what they would have had to do in 4 months.
You guys are always battling the odds, it sounds like. And
Yeah,
this is the first time with Randy's Donuts that things aren't working against you, they're working for you. You have this amazing brand, this iconic brand you brought in here. maybe this is it. Maybe this is the final hurrah to get it up and down the East Coast. After that, then you decide.
I mean, we get bored. I think we're gonna run back into music because now everybody's coming back at us and saying like, hey, you guys, trying to get us back into music because we were doing J-pop and K-pop for like 3 decades before anybody knew anything. We would go and make records overseas and come back over here and just chill. And so I don't know. It may be music. I've been getting that bug in my.
Well, for now, let's celebrate the success with Randy's Donuts, first on the East Coast, here in the Atlanta market, soon to be up and down the East Coast soon thereafter. If people want to get in touch with you guys for the litany of things that you've done and maybe your future, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
They can go on social media, Twins Alvin Calvin. That's like the best way because he checks it every 5 seconds. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, like, that was funny when you came in with the list of all the things. And one day I did Google us, just to be nosy.
That means Alvin Calvin Waters. On a Google search.
And I was reading, I was like, dang, I forgot we did this. Because that was funny when you said AC Black. I'm like, dang, he went.
You really did your research there.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Alvin Calvin, thank you for coming on. This is the beginning of a long relationship. And you've been patient with me because I've been busy recently, but I'm looking forward to our next get-together. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. And ladies and gentlemen, when you can forget more about your history than I can even ask, you've done a lot. And these are the guys you want to follow. When I can pull up things that you're like, oh, I forgot I did that. I even forgot that I did that.
Yeah.
When you forget all your successes, as much success as these gentlemen have had, these are the kind of people you want to be around. Thank you so much for coming on to the show today, gentlemen. And everybody, thank you for joining us today. I hope this show was as insightful for you as it definitely was for me. We hope to see you again next week on another episode of The Roadmap.